Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name's Katie. So this video is going to be another makeup recap roundup. This one is for June/July, so all of the products that I tried and first impressions and testing videos in July and June. I think I uploaded them all in June and July. There might have been a few that I accidentally uploaded at the start of August or something. So the videos that these products are from, so I did a June's full face of first impressions, which just had a random bunch of different brands in it. I did a full face testing Kiko in June. Then I did a testing on the brand You Can Be and a testing the brand Fiera video. And then I did a full face testing XX Revolution and a full face testing the brand l.o.v. So that's like 6 or 7 videos. So basically I've done it to myself again. I've given myself way too much makeup to review over like about 2-3 months time. So I feel like some of these products I'm probably going to have kind of like vague things to say about them, but others I have more insight into. I have literally just been using these products. They've been up at the drawers at my desk, so I use these pretty much every day that I'm doing my makeup, which is pretty much every day. I just feel like naturally I'd have probably gravitated more towards the products that I've liked more. So again, there may be a few products that I like don't have as much things to explain about, but let's just get started. Let's get into it. August and September would definitely be a bit more controlled. There'll be less makeup. There'll be a makeup, but less makeup to review. So primer, I didn't buy any primers. The only primer that I managed to obtain was this one from NYX. It's the pore filler primer. I only used this once. I'm not really into like the silicone sort of primers, you know the ones that feel really soft in your skin and are supposed to blow your pores, but I never really find that they do blow out my pores, so I literally just used this once and I think I used it in a video. I didn't want it, it just came through with an order, so I don't really have anything to say on this. If you like silicone primers, then it does that fine, but I just personally am not into this sort of primer. I kind of prefer like sort of glowy primers. So I like matte based products, I kind of like glowy primers just so I can get radiance, a little bit of radiance. So moving on to foundations, there was 4 foundations that I tried in total in June and July. So we've got the Rimmel Lasting Matte Foundation, the Kiko Unlimited Foundation, the XX Revolution. I think this is called the Foundation. There's one with a pink lid and one with a black lid. This is obviously the one with the black lid. I'm pretty sure it's called the Foundation. And then also from Fiera, I got their liquid foundation. I think it's just called the Natural Look Foundation. I mean, if you look at this, there's like about 15 different things written on there. So, I mean, let's just call it the Fiera Natural Look Foundation, I guess. So I have filmed wear tests for all of these, so I will insert them at various points throughout the video. Okay, I'm going to do this in order from least favourite to favourite, I think. So my least favourite is definitely this Rimmel one. I just really didn't get along with this very well at all. I didn't really like it in the first impressions video, and the times that I've used it since, I just don't really like it. It's just, I wouldn't say it's got particularly great coverage, to be honest. And what I have found like the last time I've used it, because my skin is sort of kind of broken out a bit recently because of the masks I've been wearing at work all the time. I do find that when you try and put this over blemishes, it like clings around your blemishes and it doesn't really cover them very well. It's just, if you've got like acne on your skin, I just don't feel like this foundation agrees with it at all. It has got like a fragrance to it, and I feel like I have heard somewhere that like fragrance can like irritate your skin as well, so maybe that's part of it too. But yeah, it's just one of those foundations I feel just clings a bit weirdly and can just generally look a bit patchy on skin. I really wanted to like this because obviously it's a mattifying foundation. I generally do prefer matte or semi-matte foundations, and I never tried the original version of this because they used to have one that was in like a purple like packaging, and this is like a revamp of it, and I really wanted to like it, but I just don't. I feel like it looks patchy, it's not got the best coverage. The only good thing I'll say about it is the wear wasn't actually like too bad. I will insert my little wear test now. Okay, so I've had the Rimmel Stay Matte on for just a little bit over 8 hours now. I feel like on my forehead, I don't feel like it looks too bad. Again, I've become a little bit shiny, but it's really hot right now, so I'm not really gonna knock it for being a bit shiny. I don't feel like it's really broken down that badly. It has gone on my little lines, like my squinty lines between my brows a little bit, but not a lot at all. I feel like overall my forehead actually It's held up pretty good. It doesn't look that dissimilar to how it looked when it was on. It's definitely settled into this chin line quite a bit. But I mean, the rest of the chin isn't too bad in terms of breakage, but it really has gathered into that line quite a lot. And I do feel like it's kind of sat in these little lines around my mouth, the side of my mouth, quite a bit. Definitely on this side. It's kind of, yeah, you can really see that line on this side. It's not liking that at all. I do feel like overall it's actually like pretty decent wear. I think it's not bad. It's not perfect, obviously, but I feel like the forehead wear in particular is pretty good, and obviously forehead wear is quite important to me, so the wear is pretty good. I'd probably say the wear is like the best thing about the foundation, because otherwise I don't really like it, to be honest. But I mean, it doesn't wear too badly. I do feel like it gathers in like kind of lines and crevices a bit though. That's the only kind of bad thing about the wear, I guess, but other than that, it's not a bad wearing foundation, but I don't really like the other aspects of it, to be honest. Yeah, I personally wouldn't recommend this. Next declutter I do, I'll probably get rid of it. I will say that the shade is quite fair though. This is 0.5 Alabaster, so I mean, at least there is an option for people that are really pale. I do find this is actually a little bit lighter than my skin tone. So next, the XX Revolution Foundation. At least I think that's what it's called. The shade I have is X0.3. I think the shade works pretty well. It's like a tiny bit too light for me, but I can get away with it. I've actually got this one on my skin today. If I'm honest, I've still just not made my mind up about this. There are things I like about it, things that I don't like about it so much. Things that I do like about it, it's really good coverage. I would say that it's like a high medium buildable to low full coverage. The coverage is really great. I like that it is more matte. However, I just feel like maybe it's a little bit too matte to the point where it's kind of a bit dry, and again it just kind of like settles into lines quite a bit. It also dries them very fast. You need to blend it out like really quickly, otherwise it can, you know, go like a little bit patchy. It's definitely a very thick foundation. It's almost like got a bit of a sticky feeling to it. Like it's fine once you kind of mattify it down and stuff, but it does feel like a little bit sort of sticky and quite heavy on the face. It's certainly not a lightweight foundation by any stretch, and I don't feel like it looks particularly natural either. But then I think when it comes to foundations that are like high coverage, I feel like I never expect them to look natural anyway, so that doesn't bother me too much. But I just wouldn't say it's the nicest feeling foundation on the skin. I think it's just like a little bit too dry for me. But at the same time, I don't hate this foundation at all. Like, I'm wearing it today and I think it looks like quite nice. I really like the coverage of it. The coverage is great. Also, filmed a wear test, and wear is actually pretty good. It's not bad at all. Again, a little bit of like line sinkage I find with it. But yeah, I will insert that wear test now. So I've had the XX Revolution foundation on for about 8 hours, like a couple minutes off it. So stupidly, I've been wearing these glasses today because I kind of put them on before I remembered that this was going to be a wear test day. So this has kind of obviously affected a little bit here. But I mean, my nose, where these little bits are, my nose never lasts anyway because I always rub it. And I feel like I did sort of touch my chin a little bit. So let's just go into this. So in terms of the forehead, actually, I feel like there's a little bit of oil, but other than that, I feel like it's held up really well. Actually, there's very little breakage. It has gone in these lines like a tiny bit, but only a very, very small amount, considering pretty much all foundations sink into those little squinty bits between my eyebrows. It's actually not done it that much at all, to be honest. And yeah, I actually think it's held up really well on my forehead. I'm impressed with that. There definitely is some breakage, and it's really settled into this kind of line on my chin. It's not the best on my chin. You can see that's kind of gone a bit dotty, bit of breakage. But as I said, I feel like I did slightly touch it today. If I'm being honest, when it comes to wear, the thing I'm sort of focused on the most is forehead, especially now because I have to wear masks at work, so I'm not even really applying makeup to the bottom half of my face. I'm kind of just applying it to my eyes and my forehead. So in terms of forehead wear, I actually think it's pretty good. These like parts of my face here don't look much different at all. It's really only kind of my chin that is kind of not held up the best. Overall, I'm just torn on this one because there are things I like about it, there's things that I don't really like about it. I mean, I kind of honestly feel like I need more time with this to come to a solid conclusion, but I definitely feel like there are foundations that I way prefer over this one, especially from the drugstore. I've got ones that I would recommend over this, and I definitely feel like the Conceal and Define one, I from Revolution. I definitely prefer that one over this one. These two are tied for first place. I like these both equally. So the Kiko and the Fiera foundation. I'll talk about the Fiera one first. So Fiera did have this foundation that went quite viral on YouTube. I think it was last year. But I decided to get the other foundation that they do instead. So I can't speak on the viral foundation and how good that one is. But honestly, this is actually a really good foundation. I really like it. The only thing that lets it down is the shade range. It's 2 colours. I got 101 Porcelain, which it's just really like orangey and pink at the same time. What I do is I add yellow to it, I add white to it, but it always still just manages to look off no matter what I mix it with. Only recently did I kind of give this other shade I have a go, which is 104B Sand Beige. And it's definitely like too dark for me by quite a lot. But I would say it's got more of like a sort of like kind of neutral slash maybe olive-y slightly undertone to it. It's definitely not like super orangey or like pink or anything like that. It's more neutral, but obviously it's like a bit dark for me. So I have found that the best mix I can get with this is if I use this shade and just add white mixer to it. And that way the undertones aren't so like pink and orangey and just weird looking. But I only discovered that recently. I wish I kind of had that realization a bit earlier. In terms of coverage, this is I would say this is full coverage. I mean, if you do one layer, it's like a high medium, build up a little bit, you're gonna get full coverage with this. It's really impressive. And it's a super affordable foundation. I think it's probably like about £5 or something. I like the finish of this. It's like, I would say it's a semi-matte finish, but more matte than it is like dewy, and I personally don't like dewy foundations. I just feel like they emphasize all of my pores, so I prefer a foundation that's like matte or just semi-matte really, and this I'd say is semi-matte but leaning more towards matte, which I personally really like. I love that sort of finish. Covers everything that I want to cover. It just looks poreless, it looks flawless, it just does all of those good things on the face. Also, it lasts really well. I did film a wear test again. The only thing that I kind of pointed out with that again is that it can settle into lines a bit at the end of the day, so that is something that if you've got like a lot of fine lines, maybe you'd have a problem with that. So I've been wearing the Fiera liquid foundation for a little bit over 8 hours now. Definitely feel like I am looking a bit like shiny, oily, but I feel like my skin has just become quite oily lately anyway. I don't feel like in terms of breakage there's honestly really not that much at all. Even my chin is quite good, and like I thought my chin would be bad because I did get like a little bit of iron brew on it earlier. But if I'm being honest, this foundation is like barely broken down at all. Like it's not separated, it's literally barely broken down. The only sort of like issue is that it is like a little bit like line settly, like my little forehead dimples right here. You can see it's sort of like kind of cracked in them, and also like this smile line right here is quite a noticeable crack there, but for some reason not on the other side, just on this side. Again, my chin breakage, which I thought would be bad because I spilled a bit of iron brew down my chin, but for some reason it's not. It's just a bit shiny, and obviously it has settled into the little chin line quite a bit, but not too badly. But other than like a few little fine lines on my face, that is kind of settled into quite a bit. Other than that, I feel like the wear is actually really good on this. Like the breakage is so minimal. Obviously there is like a little bit of shine, but again that could just be the powders I've used. Maybe I use like my favorite powders, I'd have like less sort of oil on my face, but my skin has all of a sudden decided it is oily now. Good wear, I would say, on this one. Pretty impressed with it. Again, it's not a lightweight, like it's not going to look super natural on your skin or anything. I know it just say natural look. I wouldn't say it's a natural look. I mean, it's a full coverage foundation, so it's not going to look natural. So that's literally the only thing that I can really complain about, is it's not like a super lightweight, natural looking foundation. But if you want something that's got like a more sort of semi-matte to matte finish, that's got full coverage and that lasts really well, then I totally recommend this. It's actually really impressed me. I just wished they had more colours. Just really wish that they had a better shade range, because if this had a really good shade range, I'd be like raving about this. I'd be like, wow, everybody buy this. But I mean, otherwise I do really like it, and I'm glad that I picked it up actually. I just wish I had a shade that worked for me a bit more, but as I said, this sand beige with white mixer is like the best I can get really, and it's not too bad. But yeah, if you can find a shade that works for you, I would recommend giving that Fiera one a go. So lastly, the Kiko Unlimited foundation. I really like this. So last year I tried the Kiko Full Coverage 2-in-1 foundation, and I did quite like that. I have got a review of it in my foundation series somewhere. but I actually think I prefer this one. The coverage is really good. I would say that this one is like a high medium coverage. I wouldn't put it on the full coverage level, but I mean, if you're going to use concealer with it, you're going to get that full coverage look anyway. But I would say like the XX Revolution and the Fiera one are like more full coverage than this, but this is still really good coverage at the same time. Personally, I quite like a medium coverage. I like full coverage, but I also quite like medium coverage as well. Sometimes I do find like full coverage can be like a bit too much. I do feel like this one is a bit more sort of like natural looking than the other two foundations. And this one has more of a semi-matte sort of finish, probably again leaning more matte than oily, which again I really like. And it also lasts really well. Again, wear test, I feel like this one probably wore the best out of all of them. I was really impressed with how my forehead held up, so I'll insert that clip now. Okay, so we've had the KOHL Unlimited foundation on for 8 hours now, so let's get a look at this. I think my forehead looks really good. Like literally the only difference is it's settled into the little squinty lines, like, but not completely, just like a little bit, if you can kind of see. It's not done as bad as some of the other foundations did, but like other than that, I feel like my forehead looks really good, like immaculate. Really impressive how it's worn up there, to be honest. I think it actually looks really good, other than those two little lines, but to an extent it's kind of unavoidable, just because I feel like naturally foundations do just kind of sit into those lines. On my chin, it doesn't look as good on my chin. Again, it's obviously gone into that little chin line. I have all of the foundations have done that. I would say maybe a little bit of breakage, but not too bad, to be honest. I don't feel like it's worn that badly. Really not bad at all, actually. These outer parts of my face look fine. Obviously I've been wearing like glasses, so these bits here have gone, but I never judge my nose and my upper lip anyway because I have a rubbing nose addiction. I'm actually very impressed with how this foundation is held up. Yeah, a little bit of sinkage into my little side, what they're called, smile lines. But again, like not completely, like some of the others did it worse, I feel, but it has settled into it a bit. I feel like it always does it worse on this side of my mouth, and I don't know why. Overall, I really like this. I think I probably do like it a little bit more than the Fiera one, just because I feel like this one is a little bit more lightweight and a bit more natural looking, but at the same time it's got the coverage, it's got the finish, it's got the wear, it's got all of the good stuff. The shade that I've got is Warm Rose, I think, and the undertones are fine. I just need a bit of white mix with this one because it is a little bit dark. Again, they could have better shade range, but I mean, I think they've got probably about like 20 shades or so it's not too bad. But it could be better, but again, with white mixer, it works fine. I've not got a problem with it. I would definitely say that these two are probably two new favourites. I'm very happy that I picked out these two. I really like these quite a lot. Glad that I tried them. I would put these in the potential new favourite foundation category. The Rimmel one I really don't like, and the XX Revolution one I'm just torn about it. There are things I like, there are things I don't like, but KOHL and the Fiera one, very impressed with. Okay, moving on to concealer. I have 5 concealers. So I've got the l.o.v Camouflage Concealer Cream. I've got the You Can Be Weightless Complete Concealer. I've got the Fiera Full Coverage Concealer, the XX Revolution Concealer, and the Rimmel Lasting Matte Concealer. Like the foundation, I didn't really like the Rimmel concealer that much either. Not very good coverage. Again, some patchiness. Just, I don't know, something just not very flawless looking about the finish of this guy. I found when I actually used this with the Rimmel one that, like, when I'd put it on, it would almost just remove all of the product from my face and just go super patchy. One good thing I'll say about this, so the shade is 001 Illuminator, and it is very fair and warm toned. It is actually like a pretty good colour match for me, but I just don't really like the formula. It's just not really got the coverage. It's just quite thin, just a bit patchy looking. It just doesn't do it for me. Yeah, I was just overall quite disappointed in the Rimmel base products, to be honest. So the You Can Be one. This one has like a nice finish. There's no patchiness. Very natural looking, very lightweight concealer, that's for sure. I would say more oily than it is matte, definitely, but not overkill with oil either. Finish I've not really got an issue with, however, it's just really light coverage. It's just super duper light coverage. I mean, it's got the Weightless Complete Concealer, so, I mean, weightless, I guess you would kind of expect it to be light coverage. The shade is 01 Porcelain. Again, the shade's actually like fairly pale and fairly, like, I would say warmer toned. So the shade's actually fine. And I have used it quite a bit, like I'll use it as an eyeshadow base quite a lot. I guess if there's a day where I kind of just want like a really like low-key sort of base, then it works for that. Generally speaking, I do prefer more coverage for my concealers, but the finish is absolutely fine. It's just not very good coverage. But if you like something more lightweight, then it's an option. Although last time I checked, I think this may be getting discontinued. I think I did see a couple listings of it on Amazon still, but on the You Can Be website, I'm pretty sure it was gone, so it might not even be available anymore anyway, so does it really matter what I say about it? Probably not. But finish is fine, just don't really like the coverage. That's my thoughts on that. The XX Revolution Concealer, again, like the kind of Rimmel one, this is just very similar to the Coordinating Foundation. Again, it's quite heavy, quite sticky, but really good coverage. The coverage is great. I like the shade. Again, I got 0.3. It's good for brightening under the eyes. I don't mind this, but again, it's just a little bit dry, quite heavy. And I just feel like I have concealers that I prefer to this. Like I prefer my Tarte Shape Tape. I prefer my e.l.f. one. They're just a little bit less drying. And I know a lot of people find those concealers really drying, but for me, this is like more dry than those two. I don't mind it. Like I'd keep it in my collection. I probably would use it occasionally just to like under eye brighten or whatever. But it's just, again, I just have concealers I prefer to this. But I would say it has got really good coverage. The finish isn't my favourite. It's just quite heavy, quite sticky, and a little bit dry. The Fiera one is kind of the opposite. This is quite an oily concealer, I would say. So this shade is quite dark for me. It's 102 Neutral. They do have one shade lighter, which I might check out. I'm not sure. But I have to use a white concealer with this when I'm using it. I did use it today, actually. The coverage on this is actually like really good. It's basically a full coverage concealer, which is impressive because I didn't expect that from this at all. The only thing that kind of annoys me about it is quite on the oily side. I'm not the biggest fan of concealers that are quite oily, but again, it mattifies down fine, so I guess that's okay. If you're the type of person that doesn't mind a bit more of a dewier concealer, I think you would like this because the coverage is actually really impressive, and it doesn't annoy me that the shade's a bit dark as well because it is a bit of a faff to just mix it. It's a lot easier to mix foundation than it is concealer, really. So overall, I think that this is good. It's just a little bit oilier than my personal preferences, but considering how cheap it was, I actually think that it's a pretty decent concealer, definitely. So this l.o.v one, I definitely use this a lot as an eyeshadow base. I feel like it works well for that. Again, this is another concealer that I feel like's quite oily, and again, not the biggest fan. I'm not the biggest fan of oily concealers. It's just not my thing. But it has got like pretty decent coverage. I'd say the Fiera and the XX one are a little bit more full coverage than this, but this is pretty close. Like it is a very good coverage concealer. The shade I do feel like it's a little bit kind of orangey pinky. I don't know if you can see that, so it's not a perfect match for me, but I can use it. I can get away with it, I guess. But I use it a lot as an eyeshadow base, and I'll probably keep using it as that. It's certainly not a new favourite concealer for me. I just prefer something a lot less oily and with a better colour range to choose from, really, because this had like about 5 shades or so, which is not good. Just a little bit too orangey, this one. Out of all those concealers, didn't fall in love with any of them really, but if I was going to recommend one, I'd recommend the Fiera one, because even though it is a bit oily, I do find that if you mattify it down, it does look absolutely fine. So if you can find a shade that works, again, it's not got the best shade range, then I would give this one a go. Okay, so moving on to setting powders, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 here. That's a bit too many, isn't it? So I've got 2 from Fiera, so I've got their No Filter Loose Setting Powder. I've also got their Sheer Matte Fixing Compact Powder. I've got the I Heart Revolution Baking Powder in Coconut. I've got the l.o.v Perfectitude Shine Control Loose Powder. I got a Kiko Tuscan Sunshine Perfecting Powder, which is a pressed translucent powder. And then I got the XX Revolution Loose Powder in translucent. I'll talk about the Kiko one first. I feel like this is one of the ones that I used the least. It's just, this is a weird powder because it's just like, it's like nothing comes off it. It's just weird. You do this and it's just like, is there anything here? No. I just feel like you have to press incredibly hard to get it to do anything, and the finish is just so. It doesn't really make your face look flawless or anything. And you know, it takes a lot of work to actually like mattify it all down, so I think it is also a limited edition one, so it might not even be available anymore, but I wouldn't recommend getting it. It's just I like powders when you can put your brush in it and then there's actually like product there and it's not just like See, I mean, there is some stuff coming off it, but it's just like meh. Didn't really like that one. The I Heart Revolution baking powder. This one I actually quite like a lot. I do really like this. It's like literally a translucent white one, so the shade is fine. It works pretty well under the eyes. I don't find there's any separation. It mattifies everything well. I'm definitely quite picky when it comes to pressed powders, because I find a lot of pressed powders just do not so nice things to my face. They can separate my makeup, make it look patchy, oxidize. Sometimes they just make my highlighter not show up. So there's a lot of things that powders can do wrong for me, but I feel like this doesn't really do anything wrong at all. Mattifies everything, there's no separation, there's no patchiness, doesn't oxidize me or anything. I would say the finish is nice. I wouldn't say it's like the most pore blurry, flawless powder in the world, but it certainly doesn't emphasize my pores or do anything bad for my pores. But it's not like the most blurring powder, but overall it is a really good powder and I really like it, and I'm glad it's in my collection, and I would recommend it, definitely. I think they've got like 3 other shades of this. So the 2 Fiera ones, so let's talk about the loose one. Again, I actually really like this. I wasn't sure what to expect from these powders, but I really like it. So I think the shade for this is translucent, and it's quite like a pale sort of yellow toned one. I have used it today to settle my face down. The shade I would say does work for pale skin, but again it has got a slightly more yellow tone to it, so if you've not got a more yellowy, warmer undertone, it might look a bit off. But I would say that it does work for my skin tone. And again, it's quite similar to the Revolution one. It doesn't separate, it sets everything down. I actually think it is quite smoothing on the face, I would say. I mean, I think it is quite smoothing, quite flawless looking on the face. Again, it's not the most flawless one I've found. Like, it's not Laura Mercier, but it is a really nice finish. No separation, no weirdness. Not a bad affordable powder, to be honest. I actually quite like it. And the pressed one, which again, this is in the shade translucent as well. And it looks really kind of like pink and orangey. But it actually like comes out quite pale. Like, it actually does work. It doesn't really come out how it looks in the pan. It does actually sort of work for my skin tone, surprisingly. And this is a nice pressed powder again. I feel like similar to the other 2, I can actually use this one under my eyes. Sometimes I find that pressed powders tend to be the worst when it comes to like separating my under eye makeup, but this actually is able to set my under eyes alright, although I do generally have been using it more so to set like the rest of my face. And it does a good job. I think it adds like a tiny bit of coverage as well. It has a nice finish, no like patchiness, no weirdness. So yeah. I don't actually mind the pressed powder as well, and obviously you can see I've used a lot. I've definitely hit the pan on that one. So yeah, I think both of those Fiera powders are actually like pretty decent. I would give them a go. The l.o.v one, the Perfectitude one, again, I think this one might be discontinued. I mean, I got it on the website just for my look, but when I last looked I couldn't see it there anymore. So it may be discontinued possibly, but this one has got like a little bit of pink tint, but it doesn't like actually leave your skin with a pink tint or anything. It sort of just comes out translucent. And again, this isn't actually a bad powder. I think it does mattify your face well. No patchiness, no separation, no oxidizing. Again, just like the other ones, I think it actually does like a pretty decent job. But again, also like the other ones, it's not the most flawless powder either. But actually not bad at all. I quite like it. I mean, I feel like a lot of these powders are like pretty good powders. I think I found some good ones this month. The XX Revolution one, I didn't really like it in my first impressions because I just felt like, again, I think it does oxidize your base like a little bit, like not majorly, but it does do it a little bit. And I do feel like it is one of those powders that will affect your highlighter. I didn't find it affected my like bronzer too much, but it did affect like highlighter and if I used it under my eyes, I found that it like affected the eyeshadow that I applied under there. That is a bit of a pet peeve. I do think it has a nice finish though. I think it looks quite natural. It's not like a super cakey powder. I'd say out of all of these powders, this one's probably the most like sort of lightweight looking. But yeah, the finish is not bad and it is usable, but again, it just is a real pet peeve of mine when powders like oxidize you a bit, or when they make your highlighter not show up. That just annoys me slightly. And also it's got nowhere to like tap the powder into. I just don't really like the packaging very much. And it's quite messy. It's one of those powders that literally flies just like everywhere, all around, and it gets in your lungs as well. It can make you cough because it's just so messy. It just flies around everywhere, and you're just going to end up inhaling it, and it's not nice because it doesn't taste good. So I don't hate this, but I don't really like it that much either. So yeah, kind of mixed thoughts on this. I think the finish is nice, but again, it just does some of my pet peeves when it comes to powders, which puts me off liking it too much. Okay, so moving on to bronzers, I've got 4 bronzers. I've got the XX Revolution one, which is in the shade Demo. It looks like this. I've got the Revlon Skin the Lights bronzer in 115 Sun-Kissed Beam. I got the same Fiera setting powder that I just talked about, but I got it in a darker shade. So this is Golden Beige. I got that as a bronzer. And I got a Kiko Tuscan Sunshine Radiant Bronzer in 01 Sweet Honey. Looks like these. 3 out of 4 of these I actually really like, and I'm glad that I picked up. So the Revlon Skin Lights one, the shade, I feel like again it looks a bit dark, but on the face it comes out perfect. It looks really good on pale skin. It is just like one of those kind of subtle buildable sort of bronzers. And again, it's got this sort of like, I personally really like bronzers that have a sort of like caramel kind of yellowy tone to them. And this one kind of fits in that category. So if you've got pale skin and feel like it looks a bit dark, I do think this one translates a lot better on the face. But it's really nice and I actually really like it. Again, it's a subtle buildable bronzer, which I really like. The Kiko one, again, this one has the perfect undertone. As I said, it's got a sort of like yellowy, sort of caramelly undertone to it. And again, it just works well for pale skin, which this one only had like 2 shades, so I was a bit like skeptical if it actually would work. But it does, and also smells incredible. It just smells like some sort of nice perfume, and I love it. Again, a very like subtle buildable sort of bronzer, which I love. The Fiera one, again, when I looked at this I thought, oh, is that going to be a bit too dark? But again, it's got that sort of yellowy kind of tone to it, if you get what I mean. Like kind of butterscotchy sort of colour. And again, it works. And I used this one today, and again, I feel like with this one you need to kind of, this one you'll need to like tap your brush quite a bit. But it does blend out super well. And I really like the tone of it on the skin. Also, it arrived a bit broken. I don't really know what happened there, but it is a little bit fragile because of that. But I actually think it works well as a bronzer. It's, again, it can be built up. It blends out well. It works. The XX Revolution one, I don't really have any issues with the formula of it. I think, again, it's a subtle buildable bronzer that blends out super well. It's just the colour. I don't understand, like, it's just a bit too deep for me. Not the right undertones that I look for in a bronzer. It's almost like a little bit cooler almost. So the shade is Demo, and like I'm pretty sure it's the lightest shade, but if there is a lighter shade that would be great, because I think for the lightest shade it's just way too dark in my opinion. I mean, if I just put these side by side, I don't know if you'll be able to tell the difference, but I mean you can just sort of see that this has like a different sort of kind of tone to this one, and I just much prefer the tone of this one to that one. It's just like a bit dark, almost looks like a little bit muddy on me. But again, the formula is absolutely fine. I feel like I could get it to work okay, but I just personally prefer the other 3 bronzers. So yeah, 3 out of 4 of those bronzers I really like and would recommend, and I do feel like work for my skin tone, which sometimes can be a bit awkward when it comes to bronzer. So I've got 3 blushes, and honestly I've not got anything bad to say about any of these blushes. I feel like the only thing a blush can do wrong is if it's way too pigmented, way too harsh, doesn't blend out, or if the colour just doesn't suit you very well. But I mean, obviously I tried to pick out colours that suit me in the first place. But I've got the XX Revolution blush, which is in the shade Risque, which is this sort of like kind of pinky toned blush. I got a blush from l.o.v, which is called the Blushment Blurring Blush, and it's in the shade Beautiful Minds Empower Others. This one's a bit more kind of like cool toned mauvey sort of blush. Really like the shade. And then I also got one from Kiko. This is their Silicon Notes Baked Blush in Paneria Mauve. I think this may have been like a limited edition one. It might not be available anymore. Again, their powder products smell so good. But again, it's quite like a dusky pink. Is that what you describe as rose colour? I like all of the shades in these a lot. Literally all 3 of these blushes have a really nice formula. They're subtle, they're buildable, nothing comes out too harsh. The colours I feel like complement my skin tone well. So I've really not got anything bad to say about any of these blushes. I'd recommend all of them, definitely. Obviously I think the Kiko one may be discontinued, but Kiko obviously has got like lots of different blushes. The l.o.v one might be a bit difficult to get hold of. Again, I feel like it disappeared from the website. So, I mean, the XX Revolution one's definitely going to be like wildly available to a lot of people, and they have like loads of different shades of this one, so you should be able to find something that suits you. But yeah, definitely would recommend the XX Revolution one, because out of all of these you can definitely get your hands on this, because I know Revolution is like international. Good month into blush, because I've never really been that into blush in the past, but I'm starting to get back into it, and it was a good start to get back into it because they're all really good, those blushes. Okay, so highlighters. I've got quite a lot here. So I've got the e.l.f. Glow Gleam Beam palette, which is in the, I think it's the light shade. I think there's a light in like a medium or a dark one. I got the You Can Be Glow Kit highlighter. Looks like this. I've got the l.o.v Love Illusion Holographic Highlighter palette, which looks like this. I got the Fiera Kilowatt Freestyle Highlighter Duo in Lightning Dust Fire Crystal, I think, which looks like this. Then I got the XX Revolution highlighter, which is in the shade Echo. Looks like this, like a pale sort of goldy toned one. Okay, might as well start with the XX Revolution one. I've got this one on my cheeks today. I feel like it's faded a little bit. Just a bit more on. I definitely think it's a super pretty highlighter. I love the tone of it. It works in my skin tone super well, but again, they have got quite a lot of colours to choose from. Yeah, I think it's very pigmented, very nice. Not really got much bad to say about this. I like it. I think maybe there are slightly more pigmented highlighters out there, definitely, even from Revolution itself. But I think it's a really nice highlighter, and I do really like it. I love the colour of it, and the formula's pretty good too. Yeah, would recommend it. It's nice, but again, I feel like there are Revolution highlighters that have wowed me a bit more than that one. The e.l.f. one, this is, see, the only shade that I really could use as a highlighter was this sort of like goldy toned one here, and obviously there's this one here, but this one here is kind of weird. It's like a sheer sort of glittery highlighter, which I'm not really the biggest fan of. There's not really like a strong colour pigment behind it. It's just a sheer sort of glittery thing. I know it's like a thing with a lot of e.l.f. highlighters where they don't start to really pick up a lot of pigment until you kind of get down into the pan a bit, which I feel like I sort of have started to get with this one. So yeah, I mean, it does have some pigmentation now, but they're a bit sheer when you first use them. But I mean, that shade is not too bad, like I like it. But yeah, overall I feel like this palette was a bit of a letdown, because I mean, I can't really use these shades here because they're like a little bit too dark for me really. They're just like a bit like bronzy toned, which doesn't really work the best for me. Again, just not the most pigmented formula either, to be honest, so I don't know, I just found this a little bit underwhelming really. Like, that gold shade is okay, I guess, but again, I have found like better highlighters than it. Yeah, it's meh. The Fiera one is quite nice, it's quite pigmented. I would say it's more of a sort of like glittery kind of highlighter, so if you're not really into like super like glittery highlighters, you might not be super into this one. But like, it is pigmented and it shows up well, and I did think that the colour might be a bit too dark for me, but it does sort of work on my skin tone. It's not the most ideal shade, but it works. But I would say it's definitely got like quite a lot of pigmentation, and it does show up pretty well. But again, it's a very like kind of sparkly, kind of glittery sort of highlighter. It's not like one of those sort of like natural lit from within highlighters. Quite sparkly, but I personally quite like it. I don't think it's a bad highlighter at all, but again, I don't feel like it's gonna become a new fave. I feel like it could complement my skin tone a bit better, but I can get away with it. The You Can Be Glow Kit. Again, I said this when I tried it in my first impressions. It's just quite like holographic. I'm just not really super into these sorts of shades anymore. The formula again was alright. It was decently pigmented, but again, I have found like nicer formula highlighters out there, to be honest. I mean, this shade here I probably would never use. It's just quite like a bright sort of pink colour. I'm just not really into these shades anymore, and I only brought it because I think it was the only highlighter that they had that was like a powder highlighter. It's not a bad highlighting product, but I just personally am not into these sort of shades anymore. I prefer a little bit more like natural toned highlighters. And this l.o.v one, again, I feel like this is also sort of kind of holographic-y, but it's like a bit more natural than the You Can Be one that I just talked about. But again, like I said, the holographic fit I'm not super into, but these are really like nice. These are quite nice. They have like a sort of soft velvety kind of texture. I feel like they're more sort of like natural highlighters. They're not, again, like the Fiera one, they're not super like glittery and sparkly. They're more sort of like subtle ones. But again, I just feel like they have like this strong sort of like kind of holographic undertones to them, like the like pinky yellowy sort of ones. I do quite like the formula and I do quite like the texture of them, but again, I'm just not super into the shades. I don't know why I'm doing this. My nose just looks ridiculous now. I feel like these highlighters overall, like, I found some nice ones, but nothing, like, not a new favourite. I'd say probably the one I like the most is probably the XX Revolution one. Okay, so eyebrows. So I've got 4 gels here. So I've got the L'Oreal Plump and Set Brow Artist. I've got the KOHL Eyebrow Mascara. I didn't actually use this in a first impressions or anything. I just happened to buy this. I never used it in a video or anything. I've got the XX Revolution Brow Gel. And I've got the l.o.v Browtitude 2-in-1 Brow Tint and Fibre Gel. Okay, I'll start with the l.o.v one I have actually used for gel on my eyebrows today. It is a double-ended one. It has, it's got like a gel of this brush on one end, and I love this brush. This is like my ideal sort of brush, just nice and small and thin, but not too thin. Yeah, I love the brush on that. The other side's got a tint. If I'm honest, I only used the tint like once because, I don't know, I'm just not really into tints. But the brow gel itself I actually love. I think this is great. This is probably going to be a new favourite. I really like it. The shade works pretty well. I think it's called, what are you? Bold Brunette is the shade. But yeah, it's natural. It doesn't have too much excess. It just fills in my brows. There's no splodginess. It's not too thick. It's not too gloopy. It just fills it in naturally and it looks really good, and that's all I want from a brow gel, and I find a lot of brow gels just let me down in terms of that. Again, it's got the ideal wand. It doesn't pick up too much product. It does everything right. I really like this gel. I'm definitely going to get a lot of use out of it. Again, I feel like the tint thing, I'd rather this was just one massive gel than like a tint on one end. I mean, some people might get use out of that, but it's just not really for me. But the gel, I absolutely love. Glad I tried it. Definitely my favourite brow gel this month. The XX Revolution one I don't really like. I've not really had a good experience with Revolution brow gels anyway, but I thought maybe this would change things around, but it didn't. The wand is a bit too big, really. Looks like this. As I said, I prefer the brow gel that the other one had. I mean, if I just compare them side by side, you can see the difference. It's just like a little bit big. I don't like how it sort of is like a sort of cone shape. Again, it's so thick, it just picks up way too much product. I just feel like every time I've used it, my brows just come out so like blocky and harsh looking, and like there's just way too much going on. The colour pigment's really strong as well. I just prefer the more sort of like natural brown that this gives. Yeah, I just don't really like it. I just like a natural brow gel, and it's just not natural. The L'Oreal one, the issue I had with this is that I just found that it was a little bit crumbly. Like, it just kind of leave little bits in my brow. It just wasn't very smooth. It does have a bit of excess. It's not as bad as, like, say, the XX Revolution one, where I'd literally have a whole handful of brow gel trying to tap off excess. But, I mean, it does have a bit of excess, like this sort of amount. It's meh. The l.o.v one's better for excess, definitely. I don't hate this. I prefer it to the XX Revolution one. But again, I just found that sometimes I would crumble in my brow. Sometimes it would do it, sometimes it wouldn't. Yeah, I just didn't really like it. I mean, it's better than the XX Revolution one, but again, I don't like flaky crumbliness in my brows. The Dermical one I used once and was like, absolutely not, hate it. It was just so thick. It was worse than the XX Revolution one. It was just incredibly thick. And it was just like blocky, splodgy brows. It was just a mess. Like, it has a quite small wand, but then as soon as you start tapping it on your hand, it's just like so much excess. Yeah, this was the worst of them all. Don't buy it. It's awful. I just thought, oh, a Dermical brow gel, I'll give it a go. Just don't buy it. Unless you want the thickest, blockiest, darkest brows, then fine, but no, it's not natural looking at all. It was just so splodgy, I just couldn't. So I tried 3 brow pencils. These are all micro brow pencils. So I've got the Fiera Ultra Slim brow pencil, I've got the XX Revolution micro brow pencil, and I've got the L'Oreal Skinny Definer Brow Artist one. With the Fiera one and the L'Oreal one, I also feel like had this problem of being a bit like crumbly, like I'd use them to like arch my brows a bit more with like a gel or whatever, or sometimes I'd just use the pencil to fill in my whole brow. And again, I just feel like it would go a bit crumbly, a bit like bitty, and like it tended to happen when you started like to blend it, which is just a bit annoying really. I just found that both of these kind of did that. Like there were sometimes I'd use them where they wouldn't do it, but I just felt like the majority of the time they did. The colours work fine, and I mean they're quite natural looking micro brow pencils, which I like. They're certainly not like super harsh ones, but again I just found like it was just a bit inconsistent. Like sometimes I'd use them and they'd come out fine. Other times I'd use it and I just have like this crumbly mess going on in my eyebrows. The XX Revolution one though, I love this. I think this is a really good micro brow pencil. Glad that I picked it up. I think the shade is deep brown, I don't know because all of the writing's worn off it. But I really like this. There's no crumbliness with this one. It's just got the right amount of pigmentation where obviously it shows up. It does its thing, but it's just not too like drawn on and harsh looking. It's quite soft, it's not too harsh. I don't like it when brow pencils are quite like, firm and they just come out kind of like a crown. This one is just very like soft. The shade works well. I used it today to sort of like arch my brows a bit more, and I think it worked really well. No like weird crumbliness of this. This is definitely like a new favourite micro brow pencil. I really like this. Okay, I guess I'll talk about eyeshadow now. So I tried 4 palettes. So I've got the XX Revolution, I think this is called the Expectation palette, the You Can Back to School eyeshadow palette, L'Oreal I Go Wild eyeshadow palette, the l.o.v Dare to Dare eyeshadow palette. I also brought a couple singles, so I got some of the Kiko glitter showers. I got 4 shades of them. I got gold, a pink, a green, and a silver. I've got 2 of the XX Revolution chromatic pigments, which I used in a recent video, and I thought they showed up super stunning. And I've got 3 of these single eyeshadows from Fiera. They're the ultra metallic eyeshadows. I've got a blue, an olivey sort of shade, and a white shade. Let's start with the XX Revolution Expectation palette. So it looks like this. It's a very sort of neutral palette. It's got quite a lot of like kind of pinky tone shades in it as well. Really nice shimmers. Definitely a sort of glam palette, that's for sure. So obviously I've got the look that I did in my first impressions, which I'm pretty sure was just like a very simple glam look. Next look I did after that, I did this sort of very like dusky pink kind of look. I will obviously put some pictures on the screen of all of these eyeshadow looks that I'm talking about. It was, you know, quite simple, nothing too adventurous there, but I feel like the shades worked really well, the mattes worked great, I think the shimmers showed up really nicely. Not got anything to complain with about that look. It's very simple but very effective, I feel. The next look that I did, kind of wanted to do something a bit darker, a bit smokier, a bit more grungy. So obviously I used the matte black on my lid and worked really well, but I also put like a sort of one of the shimmery shades over it, and I actually really like the effect of it. Again, all the mattes performed super well. Yeah, I actually quite like how this one turned out. It's a bit dark, it's a bit grungy, but I like it. I really like the effect of the shimmer over the black actually. I think that's really nice. But again, yes, if you want a like dark smoky look, you can definitely do that with this palette as well. You can do a light pinky dusky look, you can do a dark grungy look, you can do all those things with this. And the next picture I've got, I did this sort of like halo kind of glam look. I mean, it was supposed to be halo eye, but it kind of blew it out a bit too much really, but I still kind of like how the look turned out. Again, it's quite simple, quite like a sort of natural glam look, but overall I liked it. And again, I thought the shimmers looked stunning. The mattes, nothing to complain about with the mattes with that. So obviously I didn't get as many eyeshadow looks as I did my last makeup review that I did, because I was literally in lockdown when I was playing around with those eyeshadow palettes. So obviously I've done what I can with the time that I've had. Obviously those are the eyeshadow looks I managed. It was only 3. I tried, but I was actually pretty happy with how all of them turned out, and I definitely think that this palette, when it comes to this palette, I think that the mattes all perform super well. They blend really well, they're pigmented, they just do the thing that you want the mattes to do, and the shimmers are also super pretty, super stunning. This sort of like goldy icy one in particular I think is super pretty. Love that one. I think that is the one that I used over the black smoky one. Yeah, I mean, some of the shimmers are like more pigmented than others, I will say, but I still think all the shimmers are really nice. I definitely think there are more intense shimmers out there in other palettes, but overall I am really happy with this. I think it is a nice glam palette. I'm glad to have it in my collection. I think it's good for nights out, that sort of thing. Everything blends super well. I really like it. It's a really good palette, but obviously it's just going to depend on what sort of colour scheme you're into. If you want something where you've got kind of like the everyday glam shades you need, I mean, you've got your matte black, You've got your shimmers, you've got your neutral, like brown toned mattes, and then you've also got these sort of like pinky shades as well, which if you're into pinks then that's good too. So yeah, obviously they have a few different like colour versions of these sorts of palettes, so it's just going to depend what colour scheme you're into. But personally, I'm not disappointed with the quality at all. I think it's really good. I liked all of the looks that I got with it. Obviously you can't do anything too bold and adventurous with it because it's not a colourful palette, but I mean I don't feel like you'd buy that if that's what you wanted anyway. But yeah, I would recommend it, it's good. Okay, so next I'll talk about the l.o.v Dare to Dare palette. So I have actually got this one on my eyes today. I'm not super happy with this eyeshadow. I mean, it's pretty basic. I just tried to do sort of coppery kind of look. Decided to put a bit of blue on the lower lash line. It's not my favourite eyeshadow, but, you know, it's an eyeshadow that I did. So obviously there was the one I did in my first impressions as well, where I used the blues. Actually, before I talk about that, I should probably show you what the palette actually looks like. It looks like this. Loads and loads of shimmers. It's not got a lot of mattes in it. But obviously you've got a bright gold and a bright blue. But other than that, I feel like it's quite a neutral looking palette. So yeah, there was the blue look that I did in my first impressions with it, which actually turned out alright. Very rare do I actually like the look that I do in the first impressions, but I liked it. The next look I've got here is this sort of, I tried to do like a sort of silvery kind of glam. I tried to wing it out in a weird way. I wasn't super happy with it. I put a little bit of glitter liner on it as well. I mean, it looks okay. It's not the best. I could have shaped it a bit better, I feel. But again, I think that the shimmers and the mattes all performed super well with that look. It was just my application, really. Next, I tried to do Simple Glam. It's a little bit like this one, but I personally think the one in the pictures is better than what I did today. But yeah, I think this is just, you know, your simple, your go-to glam, and it works super well. I actually really like how it turned out, and I feel like this would be a go-to look for like a night out, or, you know, some sort of event where you want eyeshadow, but you don't want like bright colourful eyeshadow, but you need a decent eyeshadow look. Yeah, I actually really like how this turned out, and again, the mattes in this work super well, but I just wish there was kind of more of the mattes, to be honest. I like that you've kind of got like, you've got a black, you've got dark browns, you've got light browns, you've got the gradient and everything, but it's just, you don't have a lot more in terms of colour variety. Then I've got this look, which I used the bright gold as the sort of statement, and the bright gold is absolutely stunning. It works really well. I think the majority of shimmers in this palette are stunning. I think some are more pigmented than others, but obviously there's so many that I've not even actually tried all of them, because again, I've been at work, I've not had loads of time to play around with eyeshadow these last 2 months. But I actually really like how the gold look turned out. I think the gold itself looks stunning. You use a slightly darker gold next to it as well, which also looks stunning. Again, I used the same sort of mattes. The thing is, I had to kind of just use the same sort of mattes in all of these looks, really. I actually really like this gold look, and I think I would use this as like a go-to glam look as well. But, you know, like a bit more adventurous with the gold instead of like the kind of white in the inner part. So yeah, that's all of the looks that I got with it. Again, that's all I could do, that's all I had time for. But overall thoughts on this palette. So like, as I've said, I do kind of wish there was a little bit more variety with the mattes. Like maybe have some more like blue mattes, because I have got this one dark blue matte, but maybe some lighter blues would have been nice, or I don't know, just some other mattes in this I feel like would have been good. But overall, I feel like the mattes that they do have are actually really good quality. They blend well, they're pigmented, they do the thing, and I like that they're like a sort of gradient, so you can get that kind of ideal sort of smoky look with the mattes. A lot of the shimmers in here are absolutely stunning. The white one in particular, this one here, that one's beautiful, the gold is beautiful, the blues are beautiful, and a lot of the sort of in-between shades are really nice. Some of them aren't as good as others, I will say that, but I feel like the majority of the shimmers are like absolutely stunning, and I love them. So overall, I like this palette. I am glad I picked it up, because I think that you can definitely get some killer eyeshadow looks with it, definitely. But again, it is just going to depend what you're after. Let's talk about the L'Oreal I Go Wild palette. Again, this is another sort of very neutral palette. It's super cute though, isn't it? It's adorable. I think I first used it in my one brand L'Oreal video. I'm pretty sure that was quite a simple, neutral, glam sort of look in that video. But the next one I've got that I have pictures of, ooh, I actually really like this. just remembering it because this was so long ago now. I did a very fiery red with a bit of gold look and turned out really nice. I mean, the shimmers, the mattes, they're performing. They're doing their thing in this look, definitely. Love that, actually. That's nice. I like it. I've done another sort of like dusky pink sort of look with it. So, I mean, like the XX Revolution palette, you can get a sort of like dusky kind of pink look with this one too. Which one's better, the XX Revolution dusky pink or the L'Oreal dusky pink? I'll put them side by side. What do you think? Again, like, shimmers look nice, mattes look nice, it's doing the things. That's a look that you can get with it, that's for sure. I did use the mattes in this palette for a couple of looks where I used the singles, and overall I think that this is another really good palette. My favourite shade is this like matte, like sort of butterscotch shade, similar tone to the bronzers that I like, but that is one of my favourites. I love that, it's such a good matte. I have to say the gold shimmer as well, that is so nice, the one that I used with the red look. Yes, there's some gorgeous shades in here, definitely. I would say the mattes kind of are the standout more so. I mean, some of the shimmers are gorgeous, but some of them are a bit meh. But a lot of the shimmers are gorgeous. But overall, the mattes, though, the mattes are just great. I think this is a really nice palette. Definitely would recommend it. I don't know, I feel like I was being a bit mean, actually. The shimmers are really nice, but just some are better than others. It's going to depend on what colours you're into. I mean, that is literally the third neutral palette that I've talked about now. But again, this one's got more sort of warm tones in it as well. So I feel like for autumn, this would be a really nice palette. Right, the next palette. It's not, well, there are some neutrals in it, but it's not super neutral. You Can Me Back to School palette, which looks like this. I mean, it's quite colourful, isn't it? I mean, yeah. This is an interesting one. I have some mixed thoughts on this. On one hand, I like it. On the other hand, I don't like it so much. Let's get to the pictures first. Okay, the first look that I've got pictures of, yeah, I don't really like this. I was trying to do some sort of yellow bronzy thing, but yeah. I will say that the matte yellow is doing the work here. The matte yellow is really good. I really like the matte yellow. It's super vibrant, super pigmented, and it does blend pretty well. Then I've got the look I did in my most recent rotation, Get Ready With Me, which was the yellowy green look where I also used the XX Revolution pigments. I have to say, again, I used the matte yellow in this as well as the matte greens. I have to say the matte yellows and the matte greens, they do the thing. They're really good. They're really good. They blended in with each other super well. Very vibrant, very pigmented. They do it. Again, this palette is just a consistency issue. Some of the shades are great, some of them not so much. And then I did this atrocious look. I tried to use the shimmery blue. This doesn't look good, does it? This is a bit of a train wreck of a makeup look. I think the shimmers in this palette just don't do it for me. Like the blue on this look was okay, to be fair, but again, it's just the way I applied it. But the blue shimmer is actually quite pigmented and it's not too bad. It's just a lot of the shimmers in this, they have this weird sort of mushy texture. So like Politics and English, for example, you can kind of see where they've just smeared everywhere in the pan. I don't like those two. They've got that weird mushy texture, which I personally just can't stand. I just don't think it applies nicely at all. It just goes patchy and it separates, especially if you're going to use it like over a cut crease or something. And again, some of the shimmers are just like kind of meh. They're just not the most pigmented, like History sort of brown one. Like it's okay, but it's just a bit Psychology as well, the sort of blacky grey one at the bottom, again has a bit of mushy texture. Like it's pigmented, but it's just a weird sort of mushiness I'm not a fan of. It's also got this really weird sequin thing, which I literally have no idea how on earth I'm supposed to use that. I just didn't even bother because what? And then the last look that I did, this is again a bit of a train wreck look, but I kind of just wanted to test like the bright matte colours and see if they actually like showed up and were pigmented. I feel like the conclusion I came to here was that they show up pretty well. This look just there was like no concept going on here. I was just literally wanted to try these shades. And that's the thing, overall I feel like the mattes are like pretty good, the colourful ones. But again, I feel like not all of them blended into each other super well here, but the pigment was there. I think I did have a problem with a few of those like colourful mattes, like maybe Dance and the lilac-y one here. Like sometimes it could be difficult to like build up and blend. Like they would come out pigmented, but then when you start kind of blending them with other shades, it would like dim them down a bit, and it would just be hard to get the right build up. But a lot of the mattes in this are really good. I definitely think this yellow is amazing. It's a great yellow, and I think yellows can be difficult to formulate, am I right? So the yellow's great. So honestly, I've just got mixed thoughts on this palette. On one hand, I like it, on the other hand, I don't. Some of the shades in this I think are kind of naff, but some of the shades I also think are really good. So it's a bit of a mixed one, really. So I would say probably pass on it, because there are better palettes out there that are more consistent, and you can get like better brights palettes. Okay, so the KOHL glitter showers. So I brought these because I'd bought a rose gold one last year, so I wanted to get more. My favourite out of these, hands down, is the silver one. I used this in a lot of like night out looks. I used this with like the L'Oreal palette a lot, but again I didn't really get any pictures of that because I was like in a rush. I needed to go. But this silver one is stunning. I love this. This is great for like a glam look where you need like some sort of whitey silvery thing going on in your inner corner. It's just stunning. The pigment, I mean, look at that. That is just, that's insane. Like, look at that. That's amazing. Like, right? The gold one also is super stunning. It works very similar to the silver one. It shows up super well, super pigmented, beautiful. I had a few issues with the green in the pinky one. They're a little bit more patchy, like the glitter and the like kind of powdery bit, like they almost sort of like separate from each other in a weird kind of way. I don't know if you can tell, but like when you swatch it, it kind of, like I feel like the way the glitter and the powder kind of are, they don't like kind of go into each other as much as with like the silver, for example. So sometimes it would just look a bit weird. The same with the green one, like you can kind of tell the difference between the gold and the green. It's just like the glitter is like separated from the powder, like the pigment, if that makes sense. Whereas the gold one, it's just like bam, it's all just there. I hope you can tell what I mean by that. Like you can just see that it's just not consistent, like the glitter and the powder. Yeah, I didn't like those two as much, but the silver and the gold one, absolutely stunning eyeshadows. You got to get them. The rose gold shade also is absolutely stunning. The XX pigments, I only used these once in the look I did in my rotation Get Ready With Me card up for that video, hopefully. But they are absolutely stunning. They look amazing. So I have two sort of greeny shades. One's a more olivey green, one's a more sort of grassy green kind of colour. They are super stunning, super easy to apply. They work absolutely great. I used them over like a cut crease. Fantastic products. Kind of tempted to get the other shades. The Fiera ones, so I have got a couple pictures of eyeshadow looks I did with these. I'll insert them. I think these are fine if you're just using them, if you've set down your like eyeshadow base, if you're the kind of person that uses like a tacky eye base, I don't think these would work so well. But if you've got your eye base set down and you just use these by themselves, they work okay. But if you're going to use them over a cut crease, I feel like they separate. They like, you might be able to see from the pictures. I'll try and zoom in on one. But they sort of, like, they separate if you put them over concealer and it doesn't look good. But if you're just going to use them over, like, a set base, then I do think they're actually really pretty eyeshadows. Like, this green, this olivey green is stunning. Like, look at that shade. Like, they're pigmented and they're really nice. But again, you just can't really use them over a cut crease very well. And as someone that is a fan of the cut creases, I do them almost all the time. That does annoy me quite a bit. Like, why do they have to do that? Why can't they just work over concealer? What's the problem? However, they are super pigmented, super stunning eyeshadows. It's just, it's the blue one. It's just, if you're going to use them over cut creases, you might have a bit of a problem. You might be better off like setting the concealer down and then putting them over the top of it, possibly. But yeah, they just really did not agree with concealer, these, but the eyeshadows themselves are very pigmented and stunning. So moving on to eyeliner for the waterline, I have 4 of them. So I've got the XX Revolution Exact eyeliner. I've got the L'Oreal L'Liner Signature eyeliner. I've got the KOHL Intense Colour Long Lasting eyeliner. And I've got the Fiera 12-Hour Glide On Gel eyeliner. So I've got the XX Revolution one on my waterline today. So initially it performs well. It's pigmented, it glides on really smoothly, it's not uncomfortable to apply at all. However, I do feel like it does smudge in my inner corner quite a bit. Like I only had my makeup on for like a couple hours and I already noticed that it smudges in my inner corner. Can you see what I mean by that? Like it just gathers in your inner corner a bit and it's kind of a bit difficult to wipe away. I do find like at the end of the day I have tested and I do feel like it does go, it fades quite a lot in the waterline and it does go like a bit patchy. So it's not the longest wearing eyeliner for the waterline, but the initial formula of it is really nice, so it is a shame about how it kind of smudges in my inner corner and how it just kind of fades quite a lot. But I like the initial application of it. It's pigmented and comfortable. The L'Oreal one, this one isn't quite as intense and quite as, you know, like soft. It's a little bit more harsher to apply. However, this one doesn't smudge my inner corners like very much at all, and that is like almost impossible for me to find with KOHL eyeliners in my waterline, but this one barely does it at all, which is very impressive. And it does fade in my waterline though quite a bit. It is a bit of a fader, but the fact that it doesn't smudge in my inner corner does kind of make me like it slightly, because I find that very difficult to find. But there definitely are like more dramatic, more pigmented eyeliners out there, but I am kind of glad I have it, just because if there's a time where it's very important to me that I don't have a smudge in my inner corner, then this is definitely like what I'll use. And it's pigmented enough, like it shows up, it has the effect you want from an eyeliner and a waterline. So the Kiko one and the Fiera one are definitely probably the most dramatic, most pigmented ones. I also feel like these two last the longest, but they're both, I feel like these kind of smudge the worst in my inner corner out of all of them. But these ones definitely last the longest on the waterline. Like there's not a lot of fading, and the pigment just lasts like all day with these, which is really good. The only issue is that it does smudge in my inner corner. I also have found that I've had issues like sharpening these. They just get a bit dodgy when I sharpen them. But in terms of like dramatic pigmented eyeliners that last, these both definitely do that for sure, but they are just very smudgy in the inner corner, which is my one issue with them. So liquid liner, so I've got, there's 3 here, but technically it's 2 because these are the same. One's black, one's brown. Didn't order a brown one, just received one for whatever reason. So I've got the Kiko Ultimate Pen Longwear Liquid Eyeliner, and I've got the You Can Be Precise Definer Liquid Eyeliner. I've got the You Can Be one on today. I have to say the You Can Be one is actually like really good. I'm super impressed with it. It's so easy to use. It's got great pigmentation. It doesn't dry out when you're using it. It actually works super well. And I think it may be getting discontinued, which is slightly annoying because I kind of want to buy more of these. I mean, I use the black one more so than the brown one, to be honest. Yeah, I just find it super easy to do a wing, and like I'm not the best when it comes to liquid eyeliner, so anything where it's kind of made easier for me is fantastic. And yeah, this is great. It's a super dramatic black. It's easy to use. It's just absolutely foolproof, and I really like this, and I kind of want more. The Kiko one I'm not as into, just because I find that this sort of dries up whilst you're using it. Like you kind of just have to keep the lid back on and shaking it whilst you're applying it, because it doesn't stay moist. It just sort of dries up, and it can be a bit difficult and a bit finicky to apply it, which is a bit annoying because I did like it at first, but I don't know if it's just like the more it's sort of in use, the more just drier it gets. But I definitely prefer the You Can Be one, because it's just, I've not had any problems with this drying up on me yet. Okay, so mascaras. There's a lot here. Why have I done this? So I repurchased the L'Oreal X Fiber mascara. I have tried this before, but I re-bought one for my One Brand L'Oreal video. I've also got the l.o.v Sculpting Volume Mascara, the You Can Be mascara, Kiko Unmeasurable Length Mascara, the Fiera 4D mascara, and the Kiko Tuscan Sunshine 3-in-1 mascara. Okay, so my favourite two would be the L'Oreal one, but I already knew I liked the L'Oreal one because I've tried it before. It's a double-ended one. I do feel like the only issue I have with this is that I do feel like it starts to dry quite fast, like faster than other mascaras, but it's incredibly volumizing, incredibly thickening. It just does the thing. There's no like smudging or transfer or anything. It's a really good mascara. I really like it. In terms of the new ones I've not tried before, the l.o.v one is definitely my favourite. This is just very thickening, very volumizing. I love the effect that it gives on the lashes. I liked it my first impressions, but I felt like it grew on me more when it kind of dried a little bit, and now I love it. The only issue I have with it is that because I've been wearing a mask at work, I don't always wear like base products, but I will always put eye makeup on. And I find that if I've not got any like base on my eyeshadow, my skin has naturally been quite oily lately. So I do find that this has been transferring. So like I'll get little smudges up here where I've got no other makeup on. So I do find that this does transfer. It doesn't smudge. So like if, say, I'm putting it on my lower lashes and I get like little smudges, it will wipe away with a cotton bud without like getting worse. But it does transfer if I've not got base products on. I find that if I have got base under it, it won't transfer. But if I've just got my natural skin, which is quite oily at the moment, I do find that it transfers a bit. But in terms of like the way that it performs, it's a really good mascara. I love the volume that it gives. Okay, so the Kiko ones, well, I haven't really got anything much to say about the unmeasurable length one because I don't know what happened, but like a couple weeks ago I just decided to all explode, and like, I don't know if you can see this, but literally like it's just covered in mascara to the point where you can't use that because it will literally just come out as like a clump of black. I don't know what happened, some weird explosion went on in the bottle here, but it's literally not usable anymore. Like, ew. Like, if you just scrape at a wand, you just get these massive, like, clumps up here of mascara. It's really grim, and it's just, like, drowned the wand. So, like, it's just not usable anymore, and I'm kind of probably just going to have to get rid of that, to be honest. But before that happened, I don't feel like I was the biggest fan of it anyway. It was more of a lengthening mascara than, like, a thickening, volumizing one, so I personally am all about the volume and thickness. The other Kiko one, I have actually used this today. I don't hate it, but it's a bit spindly. I don't know if you can see with my bottom lashes, but I feel like it just kind of spindles a bit at the end. Like it just, I don't know if you know what I mean by that, but like at the ends of my lashes, it just sort of flicks a bit weirdly. I don't know, I just feel like it's a little bit, like they kind of stick together a bit, my lashes, when I use this mascara. And again, I just feel like there are more volumizing ones than this, like the l.o.v one just does so much more in terms of volume than this. And again, I found that with Kiko mascaras I've had in the past that they are quite smudgy, and I do feel like this and the unmeasurable one did it as well. Where like if I'm applying mascara and say like I get a little dot here, sometimes when you'd remove it with a cotton bud after letting it dry, it would just kind of smudge it further and it wouldn't like remove properly. So yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of this mascara. I just feel like it's a bit, sticks my lashes together a bit and it's just not the most volumizing, but it's not completely awful either. The Fiera one, however, is super bad when it comes to sticking your eyelashes together. It's just so clumpy. It's just really bad at like sticking your eyelashes together. It just doesn't look super flattering. And you know, when I want my mascara to more like separate my lashes out a bit. Like, I feel like there's a difference between clumpy where it's like really thick in your eyelashes and clumpy where it's like literally your eyelashes are sticking together and it looks like you've got about like 4 eyelashes, and I feel like that is what this one does. And again, I would say it's more lengthening than it is like thickening and volumizing. It's more so lengthening. Like it does deliver in terms of length, that is for sure, but it's just a little bit too clumpy for me. The You Can Be one is not bad. I would say it's probably one of the better ones, but again, I just feel like it could do more in terms of volume and length. I just feel like it could do more in terms of thickness and volume. Like it does a decent job at it, but I just feel like the l.o.v one just does it a lot better. But I like this better than the Kiko one and the Fiera one. It just needs a little bit more, to be honest, a little bit more volume, and then we'd be on to something with this one. So out of these mascaras, I definitely recommend giving the l.o.v one a try and the L'Oreal X Fiber one a try. Okay, so moving on to lip products. So I've got the Revlon Super Lustrous Matte Lipstick in 011 Untold Stories. I've got this lipstick from You Can Be, which I think is called the Velvet Crown. I'm pretty sure this has been discontinued though. I think I did find a link for it somewhere, but I think they're phasing it out anyway. And then I got 2 of the Kiko Velvet Passion matte lipsticks. So my favourite out of these is definitely the Revlon one. This is such a good nude for my skin tone. I have got it on, but it does need a bit of a top up. That is the one issue with this. But the thing is, I find this with a lot of matte bullet lips is that they do fade. They don't last the longest, and especially if you're eating food and stuff, they are going to come off. But I would kind of rather that than like a liquid lipstick where it's probably going to smudge all over my face, as opposed to this where I could top it up without it like smudging all over my face. They're just way easier to like reapply than top up than a liquid lipstick, I find, of these sort of lip things. But yeah, this has got a very matte formula. I really like the shade. It's such a your lips but better colour for my skin tone, but obviously they have lots of different shades. It's really nice. I really like it. It's matte. It annoys me when things say they're matte and they're not matte, but this actually is matte. And it just feels nice and lightweight on the lips. Yeah, the only thing with it is that it isn't like the longest lasting. It is going to come off if you eat, but it's a super easy thing to top up. These KOHL ones I was disappointed with because they said they were matte and they're not matte. They do smell like vanilla though, and they're so nice to smell. So I got a sort of grungy shade and I got a sort of pale pink shade. The pale pink shade really isn't up my street. It's just a bit too pale, too pink. Not for me. I do like the shade of this one though. I quite like these sort of dark, sort of cool toned, grungy lip colours. But again, they're just not matte. They're too slippery and moisturising, and I also found the colour was like it didn't have the best colour payoff. It could look a bit patchy as well. I just way prefer the Revlon one to these. The UCAN one had really good colour payoff. It was super pigmented, opaque lipstick, but again, it was quite oily, moisturising sort of lipstick. Not very matte at all. Again, it did have matte in the description, but it wasn't. The shade is really pretty though. I do like the shade. It's quite a rich sort of brownie nude, if that makes sense. Orangey nude almost. The shade is Smoked Salmon. I like the colour payoff. I like that, but again, it's just a bit too oily for me. A bit too sticky, glossy. But again, I could kind of make it work if I used a little bit of powder and just tapped it over my lips. So it's not a bad product, but again, I just prefer matte. And then lastly, thank God, because my throat is killing. I've been filming this way too long. I kind of just want to die, not gonna lie. Setting sprays, XX Revolution Face Fix. This is the moisturising setting spray. And then the Collection Primed and Ready Dewy one. The XX Revolution one, I don't really feel like it does an awful lot, but it just adds just a little bit of moisture. Just kind of, if you've got powder on, it just kind of, makes it settle into your skin a bit more. Makes you look a bit more natural. It's very a lightweight mist. I feel like the Collection one's a bit heavier. This one's a very lightweight mist. It smells amazing. It smells like coconut, so it just smells super refreshing. Overall, I just think this is a very refreshing mist. But it's not going to do anything magical to your skin or anything. The Collection one I feel is a bit more wet looking. It's definitely more dewy, I would say. But again, it's not going to do anything magical for your face. It's just going to give you a bit more moisture and hydration. But this one literally does make your face way more wet, but obviously just let it dry and it will disappear into your skin. But this one is going to make your face more wet, I feel. But again, it's not going to do anything magical. But it's nice if you kind of want your skin to be a bit more hydrated, if you've put a lot of powder on or whatever, which I do because I'm all about the powder when I can find ones that I like. I do like these overall. They're nice setting sprays. I'm glad I tried them. I'd rather have them on my face than not have them on my face. But have they changed my life in any way? No. I have ordered the Morphe spray that everybody raves about. So I'm waiting to see if that is the setting spray that does something magical for me. You never know. It could be. That's everything, thank God, because my throat hurts so much and I think I've been filming for almost 2 hours and this is going to be a super long video. And this is why I need to calm down with my makeup purchases. I mean, the next recap I do, which will be August, September, I'm literally just doing one first impression each month. Right, and that's it. And that'll be all the makeup. As I say, I have all of August, but it's literally right at the end of August as I'm filming this. So I'll have September and October to play with these, and I'll probably do the recap for August, September, right at the end of October, maybe early November. I don't know, but that will be the next lot anyway. This is way too much makeup. I just hate that I've done this to myself and that I've had to make this video so long because there was so much makeup. But anyway, now I can get all of this makeup out of my drawers and I can swap it for the stuff that I used in my August first impressions, which was almost 3 weeks ago now. And now I can use that makeup and stop using this makeup for a little while. So that's all I've got to say in this makeup. So thank you for watching this video and I'll see you in my next one. Goodbye.